Everybody, and welcome to week 5. I want to first congratulate our scavenger hunt award winner from week 4, and that was Jessica. Great job, Jessica, and I have emailed you about your fabulous prize that you have won. Week 5 is all about creativity and motivation, and this is probably my favorite module of all because my focus in my graduate program was on creativity education, and I believe it's very important. Because this topic is so important, in my opinion, I have extended the deadline for your field experience assignment. You can submit it this week when it was originally due, but if you'd like to take an extra week, I've extended the deadline by a week, so you don't have to turn it in until September 22nd. So I hope that might help. I want you to be able to focus this week on our topics. Our discussion facilitators have posted 4 really good prompts, I think. I tweaked them just a little bit, but they're worth our time and attention. And so I wanted you to be able to focus on those and do a good job and not feel overwhelmed with having a paper due this week as well. You will see lots of different resources this week, and you'll get to know me a little better this week because I have several things posted that I created, not just Dr. Crowder. One thing that you'll read this week is about the creative behaviors that Dr. Paul Torrance has identified, and I use those in many different ways in my classroom, and I thought I would give you a quick activity that you might use with your students. I think you can apply this one at most any level, and it's a fun way to introduce and help nurture some of the creative behaviors that Paul Torrance did. So get a piece of paper, please, and something to write with, and pause this video. And what I'd like you to do, and this is all I'm going to say about it for the moment, is take 1 minute and brainstorm everything you can think of that is red. Go. Okay, now that you hopefully gave yourself a minute to brainstorm everything that you could think of that was red, and when you do this with students, you can give them more time if you like. With very little children, they may have to draw pictures if they can't write words yet. But what this activity allows, here's what I do with it. I'll say to students, count up the number of responses that you had on your paper. Let's say there's 12 responses, and one kid has 15 and one has 20, depending on the amount of time you gave them. Praise the students that have the most responses as being people who are really strong in the area of fluency. That's the number of responses that you can come up with in a given amount of time. Fluency is a really important creative strength. Being able to come up with lots of ideas is a great thing. Then have students look at the ideas they came up with and see if they were able to shift categories. For example, maybe they started by listing, or you did, lots of fruits. You went cherries, strawberries, raspberries, and then you switched to apples. You were just all in fruits, but then you were able to shift to fire engines, and then you shifted to blood or whatever, different categories. That's an example of flexibility, the ability to shift from one way of thinking to another. Some people aren't very good at that. You can improve with this, but some people are naturally very strong in this area. Flexibility is a creative behavior that we want to help nurture in our students. Another thing to ask students is for them to volunteer to read an idea that they think nobody else would have thought of. So somebody might say, I don't know, squished ketchup package on the sidewalk. Okay, maybe nobody else thought of that. That's an example of an original response. And originality is another creative strength that's so important to nurture. We want original ideas. That's how we invent new things that help society. So you want to praise students that have original ways of thinking. Sometimes those kids that display originality are the ones that have the most difficulty fitting in with peers, and they're not socially accepted. So you want to find ways to praise them and have their peers recognize that originality is a really good thing. It's something you value. And then finally, ask for any students who have really detailed responses. So if you said uh, the red on a brand new barbecue grill, something like that. You didn't just say grill, you said the shiny new barbecue grill, something like that. That's an example of an elaborate response. And elaboration is another really important creative behavior that Torrance identified. Those 4 behaviors are so important in all domains, in all creative endeavors. And so it's a quick way for you to help students understand these behaviors, and then you can design activities to help further nurture those. The last thing I do with this is I may have a student doing this activity, or maybe this was you, who didn't list things like blood, raspberries, whatever. Instead, you listed, or your student lists, magazines, comic books, newspapers, library books. We didn't say it had to be R-E-D red. It could be R-E-A-D red. And so that's a good example of, and you might have students, or maybe this was you listed things that were the color red, but you also could shift to the other kind of red. And that's an important sort of creative behavior. Some of us do that right away. We can shift to another way of thinking, and others are really locked into one kind of thinking. And so we want to help students think of different ways of approaching situations and considering all possibilities. So if you have a student who does that, who comes up with a list of color red and things that are READ red, you want to make a big deal about that. That's something, a way that you can praise a student. And I've had great success with this activity, if with little bitty kids and also with graduate students. So might be something that you could incorporate as a warm-up in your classroom. And if you do, I'd love to know how it goes. I hope you will have a great week, and I look forward to reading the discussion board on this topic. And you have a little non-graded quiz this week tied to a PowerPoint that I created years ago. I hope you'll enjoy that activity, and hope things are going well for you. Take care.